Have you ever had that special something that you're holding on to because you're waiting for an arbitrary right time? Be it a bottle of wine, fine china, fancy chocolate, special soap, high-end paints, hand-dyed yarn, or an expensive luxury yard of fabric. As people, we tend to wait for an abstract, special occasion, or until we're ready or worthy to use the special stuff, often to our detriment or disappointment. And I've seen more and more people online talking about using the nice stuff while you can enjoy it. So back in 2023, when I was in New York, I stopped into Beckenstein Fabrics and splurged on a singular yard of luxury wool. It is the most I have ever paid for a single yard of fabric, but it is the softest, supplest, most fantastic fabric I have ever held, which naturally means I was promptly terrified to cut into it. I knew I wanted it to be a waistcoat. I knew what kind of waistcoat I wanted it to be. And I mean, I have made a waistcoat in the past, and it's cute, but I will be the first to admit that it is far from perfect, and I didn't want to repeat those mistakes on this one. And my brain kept going, my skills aren't good enough. What if my body changes shape? What if I make it wrong? A spiral of self-doubt and insecurity. And then a few months ago, Bernadette Banner made a video on using the pretty fabrics because you deserve it, and if it fits your current aesthetic, why put it off until it doesn't? Which was exactly the push I needed to pull my beautiful wool out of my stash and make it into a fabulous Victorian-inspired waistcoat. The pattern I'm using is Black Snail 0220, the Victorian double-breasted waistcoat. I started with cutting out the tailor's canvas for the front pieces, and I made sure to mark along the roll line of the collar for later tailoring reference. Since I still wasn't quite mentally ready to cut into the wool, I cut out the back pieces and lining pieces from a lovely lightweight satin that I found at Hamed Fabrics, also in New York. And then, when I could put it off no longer, I steeled my courage and cut into my wool. And as soon as I started cutting out the first piece, I felt a little less intimidated about the project. I had marked the button placements in tailor's chalk, but I knew with the amount of handling the front pieces would get, those markings would rub off pretty fast. So I added quick little markings with a bit of contrasting thread. And then I basted up the darts using a ladder stitch. I found this trick online a while back, and it has been a total game changer. Precise darts every single time. The darts get stitched up, and then the canvas can be basted on. To help the shawl collar roll over naturally and sit where it's supposed to, I pad stitched outward from the roll line, wrapping the fabric around my finger to give it a bit of shaping. This is time consuming, but very satisfying, and it's amazing to watch how easily just little bitty stitches can come together to shape a garment. For extra stability at the collar, I added some twill tape along the roll line and felled it in place. To help give the waistcoat a smooth front and corseted effect, I added a couple pieces of synthetic whalebone at the front darts. To hold them in place, I made casings from twill tape. The bones then get added to the front with herringbone stitches. Then I quickly stitched up the buckle straps before trimming down their seam allowance, flipping them right side out, and top stitching the seams to give it a crisp look. I quickly stitched up the back darts and then sewed the two halves of the back together. Since the back is unlined, I machine felled the raw edges. And then popped the straps onto the back pieces. The back portion of the armscye is raw, so I cut some matching fabric on the bias and machine stitched it into place, folded the raw edges under, and hand felled on the wrong side. The front pieces get joined at the neck seam, folding the canvas back so it doesn't get included in the seam. To help the seam sit nice and flat, I then pressed the seam open and top stitched it down. The pattern instructions then call for bridle or twill tape to be added all the way around, except for the side seams. This gets felled into place with little whip stitches. The bottom facing gets joined to the front facing, and then the front facing can be attached to the front of the waistcoat, right sides together. The seam allowances get trimmed down ever so slightly, and then the seam allowances are stitched to the front canvas with herringbone stitches. I've never done this technique before, but it makes a lot of sense, and it helps hold the seam allowances down quite nicely. Then we can join the back to the front at the side seams. And at last we come to the part I was most nervous about, the shoulder seams. The pattern and the fabric pieces look weird, but theoretically they bend and stretch to fit each other. I was skeptical at first, but it did work out. I worked really slowly at this part, stitching first the shoulder pieces and then the center neck section. And since it was feeling fiddly at this point, I decided to sew the neck section by hand instead of machine. And I can honestly say this was 100% the right call. The lining gets its seam allowances pressed under, and then it is pinned to the waistcoat and stitched in place with whip stitches. This also ends up covering the raw seam edges of the side seams. I added a pair of D-rings for the buckle at the back for easy fit adjustment. And then we add the buttons to close the waistcoat. First up are the buttonholes, and I stitched these with a strong but fine silk thread, using my seam ripper to cut the holes open, with pins at each end to make sure the cut goes only as long as I need. The placement of these and how many buttonholes I needed threw me for a bit of a loop initially, as this is my first double-breasted project. But thankfully, Black Snail has a blog with photos detailing the construction, and after quite a bit of squinting and flipping between pictures and instructions, I figured it out. And lastly, I added a little bit of batting for padding at the upper bust. This is something I had seen done by other creators, and it seems to be a common thing in the Victorian era to pad out the space just below the shoulder, as it naturally tends to divot. This is just a bit of leftover quilt batting that I joined together, and it gets basted in on top of the lining. This can be removed if and when I need to clean the waistcoat, or if I ever need to adjust the fit at any point down the road. And at long last, my New York Victorian waistcoat is complete. "'Tis done, 'tis complete, 'tis fantastic. I love this fabric and I love this waistcoat. I am kind of kicking myself that it took me this long to actually make it. Like, I could have made this back in 2023 and been enjoying it instead of gazing wistfully at my stash and saying, someday. But now it is done, and I have an awesome waistcoat in my wardrobe. It goes well with a number of my walking skirts, and I can't wait to wear it out and about. Definitely going in my suitcase next time I go to New York. That would feel perfectly full circle. So if you have been putting off using the thing, whatever the thing may be, because the time doesn't feel right or the day doesn't feel special enough, let this be your push to enjoy life, make something beautiful, and not hoard the thing because of an arbitrary future goal. Obviously, if you're saving something for a definitive milestone like a wedding or an anniversary or a birthday or a new home, that's different. But to not use something special purely because you don't feel like a day is special enough? Come on, you're worth it. So go forth and enjoy the special thing. If you enjoyed this video, I encourage you to hit the like button. It really does help the YouTube algorithm. If you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing. From a purely selfish standpoint, I had made it a personal goal to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we are getting pretty close. Be a nice way to finish off the year. If you'd like to support the channel and future sewing endeavors, I do have a Ko-fi page. And for those who have stuck around all the way to the end, you are the first to hear that I will have not one, but 2 extra videos coming out next week. That's right, folks, we're going to do a 2025 in review, looking back at all the projects from this past year, and a bit just before New Year's. And then for just after New Year's, we're going to take a look at all the projects I have planned for 2026. Get ready for some behind-the-scenes tidbits and gorgeous fabrics, and I will see you all soon for more Geekery Meets History sewing adventures. Make something beautiful and not hoard. Use the special stuff. Often to our... Yes, we do. So back in 2023 when I was... What are you doing? Are you so proud of yourself? Are you very photogenic, puppy? Yeah. Can we record the video?